Hello, everyone. We are going to share bite-sized information for you to digest. Today, we're going to talk to Lori Ann Pardue, who has been a registered dietitian in healthcare for over 20 years and is a functional nutritionist. Focus is uncovering root cause of symptoms and to help clients heal through nutritious and healthy lifestyle practices. So today, we're going to try to bust some myths about carbs and hydration. First, Lori Ann, tell us, are all carbs bad for you?
Absolutely not, Hathel. It really depends on the quality of our carbs. I think carbohydrates have gotten a bad rap over the past few years, all carbohydrates, and a lot of people restrict them significantly, but it really depends on the type of carbohydrate and the quality of the carbohydrate. So just a little bit more about that. There's two types. There's complex carbohydrate and simple carbohydrates. And it really is the simple carbohydrates, which are those processed sugars, white breads that are found in soda and candy and things such as that. Those are really ones that are not good for us. But complex carbohydrates that have fiber and provide a lot of vitamins and minerals, those are definitely good for us. And we need those for example, in our diets every day.
Vegetables and fruits, those are complex carbohydrates.
Well, fruits are not exactly complex carbohydrate, but that might be a different conversation. But fruits are good for us. Let me say that. But things like beans and legumes, lentils are great. Brown rice, whole wheat products are better sources of carbohydrates. Those are the complex carbohydrates that we really want to incorporate primarily in our diets when we eat carbohydrates.
Great information. Now, the next myth, carbs make you tired after eating them.
Again, it kind of goes back to the answer I just gave about the type of carbohydrate. I will say, I think if you eat a heavy meal heavy in carbohydrates, I think that can cause us to feel more tired. But it really, that tired and fatigue feeling really comes more when we eat those simple processed carbohydrates, because what happens in our bodies is our blood sugars rise quickly when we eat those simple carbohydrates. And so it rises quickly and then it's taken into the cells very quickly. And so the blood sugar then drops down. And that's what leaves us feeling tired and fatigued, and even makes us feel some craving to have more of that simple sugary carbohydrate.
You almost busted our other myth, which is carbs make you crave for more and more food.
Yeah, so it really depends, but those simple carbohydrates certainly can cause us, because of that blood sugar shift quickly, and it does create some processes in the body that make us start to crave and to want more. And a lot of times it's that energy feeling that we want to have that high again, or to feel better. Our body does crave it.
Okay. And what about the last myth about carbs? You shouldn't eat carbs after a certain time of day.
Yeah. So that again is not necessarily true. I think it's important to point out that carbohydrates tend to be calorically dense. So if your goal is weight loss, then you probably don't want to eat a lot of carbohydrates later in the evening, just for the simple fact from a calorie standpoint. But the idea of not eating carbohydrates at all after, a certain time, 6 o'clock or whatnot, is really not true. I think it's great for us to all not or really minimize those simple carbohydrates really any time of the day, but definitely in the evening time is not going to help. It may affect our sleep and things like that too. But not necessarily. I think, again, if we have, if we're having a dinner meal that's around, more evening time, I think it is perfectly fine and healthy to have a reasonable portion of one of the complex carbohydrates. It's an important part of our diet and our meals to get that balance in there as well, and the fiber and all the vitamins.
I think this is great information, bite-sized but awesome information. Next, we're going to try to break some myths about hydration. Now, the first one is everyone needs 8
Yep.
glasses of water daily.
Yeah. Well, that's not a bad rule of thumb necessarily, but it's not all totally true. I think there's a lot of factors that go into hydration as well. It certainly depends on our body size, on our age, if we have any health issues. So that's always important to remember. There's not a one size fits all. And really the recommendations are a little bit more. There's recommendation for around 9 cups a day for women. Those are 8-ounce cups, and around 11 or 12 for men. So the recommendations are actually a little bit more. So that's something to consider. But again, I think it depends if you are inactive, then having, 8 to 10 cups a day is probably sufficient. But if you are active, exercising regularly and have other things going on, the recommendations are higher.
Okay, great. Now, next myth. Coffee and other caffeinated drinks dehydrate you.
Yeah, that's a good one, because that has definitely been a way of thinking in the past, but there's a lot of research out now that actually shows that moderate intake of caffeine, let's say coffee, for example, moderate, I'm going to say up to 2 cups a day, that does not lead to dehydration. Now, it is a diuretic, so that means it will cause you to go to the bathroom, urinate more, but it's really more of a short-term increase in urination. It's not necessarily going to dehydrate you. So again, moderation. I mean, if you're drinking excessive amounts of caffeine and that, not balancing things out in other ways, but no, that is not a truth.
Next,
yeah,
sport drinks are the best way to rehydrate after exercise.
Yes, that is definitely a myth. And I think that I like to get on my soapbox about this one a little bit, because those sports drinks are really overused. I think a lot of times, especially in the younger population. But really the take home message about sports drinks is it's important for us to take a look at what's in the sports drinks. A lot of times those have those added sugars, those simple carbohydrates, dyes, a lot of preservative things that are not good for us. But I also want to say that in certain situations, they can be beneficial. So if you are exercising strenuously for an hour or more, then that's where those drinks can be beneficial to replace some of the lost electrolytes, in particular sodium, potassium. But you can also get those replacements through other things as well, through food. Some coconut water is another good natural way to get some electrolyte. So just remembering that if you're just a light exerciser, it's really not necessary to have sports drinks.
Okay, great. And the last one is, does only water hydrate you?
Yeah, that's a good one. I mean, water is the best, I'll say, but it's not the only thing that hydrates you. We really get water throughout our whole day through our diet. So considering other things that we are eating, especially our juicy fruits and vegetables that contain a lot of water, things like watermelon, even our apples and peaches, things that are pretty juicy. Those do provide a good bit of fluid. Some of the greens, or if you think about cabbage, some of the leafy greens and those types of foods, those are providing fluid as well. For a soup is another one to consider. We talked about coffee or some of the teas and other things that can certainly provide hydration for us throughout the day. It's not just
information about the hydration as well as carbs. I've learned a good amount of information in this. Now, if people want to reach to you, what's the best way to reach out to you?
The best way is to call me on my cell phone or text me on my cell phone. That number is 919-225-1296. Feel free to leave a message or reach out in a text form,
Lori,
and that way we can connect.
I have really gotten a lot of information through this. I hope people learn more information from this as well, and hope they can reach out to you. Thank you so much for this.
Yeah, thank you for having me.